open today's meeting of Te Puna Kōrero for the 19th of October 2023. I'd like to begin by asking Councillor Hayward to open with a karakia.
Kia ora koutou. Let's all go together. Toru whā. Whakatakatahau ki te uru. Whakatakatahau ki te tonga. Kia mā kina kina ki uta. Kia mā tātara ki tae. E hi ake ana te atakura. He tio, he huka, he hauhu, tihei, mauri ora. Kia ora.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hayward. I'll begin by moving apologies. We have apologies from Taku Parai, Councillor Johnson and Councillor Ford, who may zoom in. So I will put those apologies. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Filo, thank you very much. All those in favour? Opposed? That is carried. Our first major item today will be public forum. We have Liz Kelly and Caroline Mariko to speak. If you'd like to come up now, Liz and Caroline. Now, as you're speaking together, you'll have a total of 10 minutes. That includes time for questions. You'll hear a bell at 8 minutes. Otherwise, feel free to take it away when you're ready.
Nā mihi atu, tēnā koutou katoa, ko Liz Kelly tōku ingoa, ko kai whakahaere mātua o te Porirua Whānau Centre. And this is my colleague, Caroline Mariko, which is here in the capacity as Creekfest, long-term Creekfest committee member, but I'm sure you all know Caroline. So I know that you have a lot on the agenda this morning, so I want to thank you for giving us the time to talk to you. And there's actually 3 items that I wanted to briefly speak to in my 10 minutes. The first item is the gaming policy that you're going to review, and you'll be aware that Porirua Whānau Centre has always proactively advocated to reduce alcohol and gambling negative impacts on our families and our community. So I'm really pleased to see that you're reviewing this policy, and essentially that the proposal before you this morning is to make some significant changes, hopefully, that will that we would support, and that's making it a little bit more difficult to move a licence from one site to another. So we would support that. Porirua Whānau Centre and our community would support that. We wouldn't support the proposed notion, though, for council to not seek funding from the profits of the poking machines, because essentially we feel that that would mean that there would be further reductions to events and services to the communities of Porirua, or the other option would be that there'd be another rate hike. So that's what I wanted to talk to about the gaming. I understand too that, and I've read the papers for the Māori strategy and the Pacific strategy that's been presented and tabled today as well. And we support those. And I'm particularly pleased to see the Pacific strategy, and that the large populations of our Pacific community are being recognised and valued, and particularly given that that's in Eastern Porirua. So pleased to see that that's on the table. It's a bit raw, but at least you've made a start. And I'd like to refer to that, to both of those strategies, after I talk to you about Creekfest. So for those who don't know, Creekfest has been running now for 16 or 17 years, I forget actually, but I personally have been event managing it for the last 14 years, 2 under the manager for Porirua Health Links and 12 as the manager for Porirua Whānau Centre. And it's an opportunity for organisations within the region, not just for Porirua, to showcase the services that they provide to our communities. And we all know that there are programs and services for everybody, but unfortunately the people who need them often don't know where to access them. So this gives an opportunity for that to happen, but it happens in a fun manner. So it also provides an opportunity for us to showcase local and national talent and provide a free event to our community. Many of the people of Eastern Porirua wouldn't get an opportunity to see that level of entertainment. So it's something that is looked forward to. And I read in your review for your finance policy under Pātaka that it also is something that council supports, and that you recognise the economic and cultural benefits that Creekfest provide to the city of Porirua. But blow me down if I then see that in your paper that you fund and support Creekfest. And so I'm here to correct that assumption that you guys have put in there, because you haven't supported Creekfest for the last 3 years, and you used to support it up to 25% of the total cost, either in putia or in kind. But now it's been reduced to less than 5%, and there is no in-kind support. So at local government conference just recently down in Christchurch, Karen Rangi gave, she's the CE for Creative New Zealand, she gave an awesome workshop and speech to, and essentially she said how we need to invest in the cultural diversities of our communities and how that increases better outcomes for these populations. And afterwards I spoke to Mayor Baker about the speech and asked her if she had listened to it and if she agreed with what had been said, and she said she did. And so then I asked her, why do you no longer fund Creekfest then to the levels that you have done in the past? And she said, there's no money. And I don't even know what Creekfest is about anymore. So I'm here to tell you what Creekfest is about. And that, well, I do know that you have to balance what is being distributed into the community, the in-kind support that has been given us in the past. I don't understand why that can't be supported, because that has increased the cost to us to run the event. But I want to leave some time for you to ask questions. Hopefully you're going to ask some questions, because what I'm really brassed off about, and I'm here to tell you, is that, okay, that's fine if you're not going to support it, but don't then turn around and take the credit for the success of it, because in your policy, in your finance policy, on page 653 under Pātaka, you acknowledge there the benefit that Creekfest is to the community, for the cultural benefit and the economic benefit that it is. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We've got a couple of minutes for questions if anyone has any. Mayor Baker.
Liz, can you tell us what the in-kind services, what that we used to fund, what they actually were?
So the in-kind service that was really helpful, I believe, was the rubbish, and particularly educating people on recycling. So you would also support it with talking to our storeholders about better ways to package their kai and their things so that it met your policies or your vision for recycling, and you did the rubbish. You also did the what? Oh, yes, that contributed to staging, but the road management was also another significant in-kind support that was given to us for Creekfest. We also had Benna, who worked in your events department. So you guys have a whole department. This is just a team of 4, and volunteers and my staff at Porirua Whānau Centre who put on this festival, and we get 10,000 plus people over the day attend that. And when we had Stan Walker twice, the first time we had over 30,000. That was great for Porirua. Now, Mayor Baker, you also said that you did not believe that Creekfest was the biggest event in Eastern Porirua. And so I challenge you to tell me what's bigger than Creekfest in Eastern Porirua? What supports cultural diversity and the economic things of Creekfest, of Eastern Porirua? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I don't believe there are any further questions, and that does bring us to 10 minutes. So thank you very much, both Caroline and Liz, for your submission. I appreciate it. Cheers. All right, we will now move...
Oh, sorry. So this is live, isn't it?
Yes, that is.
Okay, so I'll watch your debate.
All right. Moving now to conflicts of interest declarations. Are there any conflicts? Councillor Hayward.
Kia ora, mana. Due to my conflict of interest regarding Class 4, I will remove myself from the chamber during those items of the agenda.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much, Councillor Hayward. Are there any further conflicts? There are not. Okay, cool. Thank you for noting that. Notification of extraordinary business. There is none. We'll move now to confirmation of minutes for our 5 October meeting. I will move those and ask for a seconder. Councillor Hayward, thank you very much. Are there any changes or amendments to those minutes? There are not. I will put them all in favour. Please say aye. Opposed? That is carried. All right, a note to the meeting. Under Standing Order 9.4, I am changing the order of the agenda. So we will first hear from oral submitters on the Class 4 gaming machines and TAB venues policy review. We will then consider items 7.2 and 3 before moving back to hear the remainder of the submitters on the review and explanation. That's to accommodate the various submitters who would like to speak to us today who weren't all able to come in at the same time. So we'll just shuffle things around a little bit to make sure everyone can submit that would like to. So that means beginning with this paper for 7.1, at this point I will not move and second it as we hear the first submissions, noting that Councillor Hayward has left the room as he noted for his conflict. So there are 6 oral submitters, I believe, that have been confirmed. So I will invite submitters to the table one at a time to speak. For submitters that are here, and I believe there may be some online, you have 5 minutes to speak, including questions. You will hear a bell at the 4-minute mark. So if you wish councillors to ask questions, when you hear that bell at 4 minutes, I would advise that you wrap up quickly to let us get in a few. I'll remind councillors that you can ask questions of clarification, but this is not the forum to have a debate with our submitters. So please keep any questions to just that, questions and not comments. So I believe our first speaker is Hong Yuan on Zoom, and I will refer councillors to submission 62 if you wish to look at it while we are hearing from them. Hong Yuan, are you here? Sorry, I can't hear you currently. It does look like you're unmuted. 1 second, please. Could you please try speaking again?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. We'll begin your 5 minutes now. Feel free to start when you're ready.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I will start now. Kia ora koutou katoa. Dear councillors, my name is Hong. I work for Asian Family Services as a public health lead, and also I live in Whitby. So today I want to present on behalf of Asian Family Services and the Porirua resident to recommend you, the City Council, to adopt a better policy to protect our community from the gambling harm. Next slide, please. Asian Family Services, we specifically provide gambling harm minimization for our Asian communities in New Zealand. Next slide, please. So today I will only focus 2 points. First one, that we encourage the City Council to introducing a more restrictive policy and golden standard sinking policy. No new license, no club merge, and no relocation. I think you have already read through all of the words that I wrote in the submission. So today I want to just emphasize some points here. So first one is gambling harm is a significant health issue in New Zealand, and class 4 gambling is the most harmful form of gambling. And the third one is gambling harm is an equity issue in New Zealand, and Maori, Pacifica peoples and Asian community and our young people, rangatahi, disproportionately experience gambling harm. And according to the data from Stats New Zealand, Porirua City has the highest proportion of Maori, Pacifica peoples and Asian among the 4 principal cities in the Wellington region. And the total Maori, Pacifica peoples and Asian made up 57.3% percentage of the population. So the community need your support. And we also provide some statements from Asian Family Services client. He's a Malaysia Chinese man, and he said to us, and poker machines are incredibly addictive. I've tried to quit many times, but I just can't seem to control myself. I hope the council can help by restricting access to pokers. And also he mentioned that additionally for new immigrants, our Asian community, they often lack awareness of the harm they can cause, because in many Asia countries, poker is illegal. So when our new migrants come to New Zealand, they have no idea what adversely impact it will bring to them when they go to the poker venues and addicted to that. So we hope that we can work together to protect our Asian communities from the gambling harm. And also, so the last point, also I want to emphasize that please, City Council, our lovely city councillors, I think the community want you to enhancing the reduction in electrical gaming machine availability to protect the community, and also enhancing the reduction in EGM availability is an effective way to mitigate the harm associated with gambling, and also it will be your most proactively way that our council can protect the community. Yes, thank you very much. That's all from me.
Thank you very much, Hong. I'm just looking around questions. Councillor Philo.
Thank you for your submission. My first question is on, well, it'll be your page 9, where it's on the second paragraph. Any community funding alternative that reduces reliance on money from poker machines and doesn't cause harm to our communities is worth encouraging and to advocate for. I'm just wondering, do you have any suggestions on what those alternatives could look like?
I think it's a good question. Thank you so much. At this point, specifically for our Asian community, I don't have specific suggestions so far, but I'm more than happy to discover, the alternative opportunities for the council, because I have found some alternatively funding way for our community, because we have a Chinese community. They receive the funding from the Class 4 gaming, the funding, and we encourage them to seek alternative funding way, which is Wellington Wellington Community Fund, but it is only for the community, funding applications. So I'm more than happy to look at the more options for the council. Yeah, I'm more than happy to support that. Probably we can provide more information later on. Thank you.
Oh, that sounds good. Thank you. As a sort of a backup, if that, or another alternative, just wondering, do you think that the funding should come from the ratepayers?
As a Porirua resident, I would say probably partially. Because when we think about how we get the funding from the ratepayers, we have to think about who will be benefit for the activities the city council you wanted to organize in the future.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. We'll wrap up there. Hong, thank you very much for your submission. It's much appreciated. I will now move to our next submitter, Jared True, who is also on Zoom, and I'll refer councillors to submission number 5 if you wish to look at it at the same time. Jared, you have 5 minutes, including questions. You'll hear a bell at 4 minutes. You can proceed when you're ready.
I'm Jared True. I represent the Gaming Machine Association of New Zealand, which represents the vast majority of gaming machine societies. We support your current policy, your status quo. We support the retention of the current policy, which allows relocation into central business districts and industrial zones. And we also support the retention of the club merger provisions. Next slide, please. The current policy is reasonable and it's working well. There's been nothing that's happened over the last 3 or 4 years, no new evidence or new concern that would justify adopting a more restrictive policy. Your gaming machines have just naturally declined. In 2015, Porirua had 12 venues. You now only have 10 venues. Next slide, please. In relation to gaming machine relocation, first and foremost, relocation is a harm minimisation tool. You currently have a couple of venues that are very close to residential areas. This would enable those venues to move out of those areas into more appropriate areas, such as the heart of the CBD or industrial zone. Relocation is all about facilitating moves out of undesirable areas to more appropriate areas. And that's entirely appropriate in Porirua, where you have 8 out of your 10 venues in very high deprivation areas. Not allowing relocation just simply entrenches those venues that may be at undesirable locations exactly where they are. Next slide, please. There's other benefits in relation to relocation. It also enables venues to move out of earthquake-prone buildings, so the staff are safer and the customers are safer. It's a health and safety issue. Some venues may be on large blocks of land, enables those venues to move to smaller, more modern, more compact premises, and enables those large blocks of land to be used for more appropriate purposes, such as high-density housing. Also enables venues to move the landlords demanding unreasonable rentals. If you were to adopt a policy which is a sinking lid, no relocations, the landlords know that, and the landlords know that the gaming machines are a valuable part of the hospitality business, where these then see landlords charging above market rentals and imposing unreasonable terms. If your policy allows that venue to move across the road, it removes that artificial restriction and stops those unreasonable rentals at unreasonable terms. But importantly, what we actually see with relocations is we see venues moving from old run-down premises to new, modern, refurbished premises, which tend to attract a more affluent clientele and tend to have less gaming spend and to be more positive in relation to a harm minimisation perspective. Next slide, please. Relocation is also fair to the local business owners. The business can be restored if there's an event such as a fire, a flood, an earthquake, or if council comes along and acquires the building under the Public Works Act. Next slide, please. Having relocation also protects the extremely valuable community funding that comes from the machines. Without the ability to relocate, there could be a sudden and dramatic loss of funding. If there's a flood, an earthquake, we could see a large number of machines lost overnight. In Christchurch, with the earthquakes, we lost 12 venues overnight. If that happened in your district, that would remove all of the funding and take out all of your venues. Next slide, please. Relocation is extremely common. 65 councils have a relocation policy in place, principally because of those harm minimisation benefits and principally because they want to be able to facilitate venues out of undesirable locations to more desirable locations. Next slide, please. The club merger provision. The club merger provision, again, it's in the Gambling Act because it's seen as a positive harm minimisation step. A club merger results in 2 venues reducing down to 1 venue, which is positive. It also results in having one larger single venue where you've got the resources to employ dedicated gaming staff that are actively monitoring the staff. You've got the resources and energy to be able to employ the latest harm minimisation tools such as facial recognition technology. So when we see large venues, large club venues, we see dedicated in-room gaming staff that really build strong relationships with their customers, and we see the latest technology used to help to assist with addressing harm. Thank you, and I welcome your questions.
Thank you, Jared. I have a question from Councillor Philo.
Thank you, Jared. Are there any examples that you know of in Porirua of venues, particularly in our high deprivation areas, that have spoken to you about relocating?
No, there's no active examples there. But I think as a policy setting, if you do have venues that are close to residential areas such as the Sandbar and the Marina Bar, I think as a policy setting, you shouldn't enable that flexibility in the future and those options to be considered by those owners in the event that that prospect becomes available.
Do you know of any mergers that have occurred in Porirua?
No, I don't.
Okay. One last question on your, well, it's page 479 of our document. It's point 53 around the design of the gaming machines being highly regulated and controlled. And you did mention a technology of facial recognition. So I'm curious around your thoughts and if you're aware of Norway's approach in how they regulated their machines so that they're less aggressive, and they've actually gotten really good results in their country in terms of minimising their gambling harm. And really my question is, currently, is it fair to say that the machines that we have in place in our country are still quite aggressive and do pull players in with all the flashing lights and kind of keep them hooked sitting there?
Yeah, so class 4 machines, New Zealand's class 4 machines in pubs and clubs, the ones we're talking about, not the ones that are in other countries or in the New Zealand casinos or online, are extremely highly regulated and controlled. They are, they've got the lowest spend and they're slow and boring compared to everything else that's available either in the casinos or offshore or online. Everything's regulated from as how fast the wheel can spin. That's all slowed down. The machines are designed so they can't be manufactured a near miss. So it looks like you've almost won, but in fact you haven't. The maximum you can bet on our machines is a mere $2.50 at a time. If you go to Australia, it's $10. If you go online, it's unlimited. If you go to any of the 6 commercial casinos in New Zealand, the maximum you can bet per line on a gaming machine is unlimited. The maximum you can win on a single gaming machine in New Zealand is only $500. If you go to a casino in New Zealand, it's unlimited. You go offshore, it's $10,000, $50,000. You go online, it's unlimited. If the machines are jackpot linked in New Zealand, our machines, the maximum you can win is $1,000. Again, the casinos in New Zealand, unlimited, online, unlimited, and offshore, the prizes are in the hundreds of thousands, if not the millions.
Thanks very much, Jared. That's brought us to the end of your time. We appreciate your submission, and I'll now be moving on to our next submitter, Tangi Whiu.
Thank you.
If I could invite Tangi up to speak. Councillors, this is submission number 76 for anyone who would like to follow along. Is Tangi here? Oh, we're just very quickly checking to see if Tangi is here. Sorry, submission 76. I don't have that in front of me. No, it appears Tanya's not here. So I understand we are at this stage pausing our 7.1 hearings, and we'll be moving through to item 7.2. I'll just wait for Councillor Hayward to rejoin us before we begin. All right, we'll now move through to item 7.2, Ola Kamatanga, Beginning of Life 2024 to 27 Pacific Strategy for Porirua City Council. I will move it to get it on the table. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hayward, thank you very much. I'll open the report for discussion and invite council officers to speak. Do we have a council officer who will be speaking to this? I'll just wait a second for everyone to come into the room. If there are still people looking for space, there's a little bit of space over at the back of the room over here. There's still a couple of free chairs. Please keep coming in. Congratulations. Yeah. All right, has everyone come in that would like to? There's still one or two empty chairs if there are still people waiting. All right, thank you very much. Taima, we're going to speak to this.
Thank you. Alofa lava, ki orana. Whakalofa lahi atu, malo elelei.
Sorry, can I just check, is your microphone on?
Aloha ni. And very warm Pacific greetings, not only to our wonderful elected members and our team here, our executive leadership team, but also our community, who we could not stop from coming today on this auspicious occasion. Vanessa? Vanessa? We have had the opportunity to talk to you along this journey a year onwards from whence we started the deliberations of creating Ola Kamatanga, Beginning of Life, 2024-2027 Pacific Strategy for Porirua City Council. It is a milestone for us to be here and to be supported by our Pacific communities. Celebrating the success of our Pacific people in Porirua. Hashtag starts with us, our story, our people, our history. Our focus areas and priorities, whaasino identity and belonging, whaatapuia, trust and confidence, whakapotopoto, wise and prudent. Ola Kamatanga is a covenant between Pacific communities that we will work in genuine partnership, that together we will uplift our communities and council services to be effective and responsive for all. We'd like to take the report as read. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson.
All right, thank you very much. And can I just say welcome to everyone here. Thank you very much for joining us. I'll open for discussion and questions from councillors. Mayor Baker.
It's not a question, it's just to say, long time coming, it's been overdue, and I hope now we hear more from our Pacific community. You're very important to us, so please make sure you do consult with us. It's all very well having a strategy, but we all need to keep working at this, and so pleased you're all here today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Baker. Are there any other questions or comments from anyone? There do not appear to... Councillor Hayward.
Just to support the points that were made previously, you all showing up today means a great deal to me on a personal level. Ka nohi ki te, showing your support for the work that's been done by officers. So I thank the officers for the mahi in building up trust with our community and our community demonstrating their commitment to this mahi. So let's just get it done. Let's move on to the next step, and then the next step, and then the next step for all of us. Kia ora.
Thank you. Councillor Duncan.
Yeah, thanks. Look, great presentation and fantastic sentiment throughout the whole strategy here. I think it's fantastic. What scared me with this is the financial implications for it. Are we looking at creating a department in council to support this? Because we have no money. We don't have the finance to do this. We're well aware of all the challenges that we're facing at the moment here in council, even looking at cutting services. So to actually create a whole new department to support this really worries me because we just don't have the money.
I think Ruben's going to speak to that.
Through the chair, we do already have a Pacific team, and so we will be looking to support the existing team within existing budgets.
I'm happy.
Excellent. Councillor Nalo.
Maloni kainga. First of all, just to comment that I support this 100%. When I think of Porirua, this is what I see. This is people who look like me on the front line, amazing groups coming together for the same kaupapa. I've just spotted my boss from work, so hello, thank you for coming in. But it's amazing to see when our people are needed that we can come together and do something together as a unit. In this group, we have a whole bunch of different Pacific Islands, and this is essentially what makes us. So keep up with the kaupapa. I support you 100%, and I'll talk to you guys very soon. Thank you.
Councillor Lega.
Thank you very much for coming in. I think this is an amazing start to a long journey. I mean, I've got to say, I grew up in Porirua, so I understand, went to school at Windley School. I understand where you're coming from. I just wanted to follow up on what Councillor Duncan said, and Ruben, I hear what you said, but in the paper, under financial implications, it says we've budgeted this cost already, and this is why we've got to where we are. Additional funding to expedite the implementation of the Pacific Strategy will be sought in future long-term plan and annual plan processes. That process is still to come, and I just reflect what Councillor Duncan said about our financial situation and what we will need to consider in terms of how we move this forward. So just making sure that you are aware of that. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. My understanding of that was that I believe it's for future long-term plan processes, not necessarily the process for next year. So in the immediate future, the funding is already set aside. And I think that's a note to councillors that hopefully this is the beginning of a journey and we're looking to grow as we head into the future. But thank you very much, Councillor Lega. Sorry, I had Councillor Waddle next, and then Councillor Wehape. Councillor Waddle.
Thanks, Councillor Trillin. It's amazing to see you all here. Thank you so much for coming in. I just want to echo what Mayor Baker has said and what everyone else is probably thinking and is going to say, that this is amazing, but it has taken far too long to get to this point. So if this is the turnout we get on day one, you're setting the standard high for next time we want to see you, and we want to see you every week, if that means it. So, kia ora, and thank you.
Excellent. Councillor Wehape.
Sorry about that, Nathan. Kia ora, welcome everybody. Amazing. Oh, hi, there's so many beautiful people here. I fully support this strategy, but also I don't think you can really put a price on the well-being of people in our community. It is actually part of council's responsibility to invest in people. So whilst at the moment we're talking about we don't have any money, I'm pretty sure we can find some in the future. But thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Councillor Philo.
Kia ora, and welcome everybody. It's really cool to see such a full public forum today, and I wanted to address 2 points that concern me in the report, and it was point 30 and point 31, particularly talking about career aspirations for Pacific staff in council, where it says that Pacific staff have expressed that they want to be considered for leadership roles as they believe they have the capability to be great leaders, but they're overlooked for the promotion. So I don't want to assume anything here. I'm asking for clarity. Is that staff of who are Pacific descent, who work throughout the different roles in our city, going for different higher tier roles like ELT, corporate services, infrastructure, they feel like they can do those roles, but they're not given the opportunity. Is that what this is saying, or is this more particularly for your department and building up the capability within that?
Across council, we have approximately 40 to 50 Pacific staff. And when we engaged with them, they talked about their aspirations of wanting to be considered for higher roles. Now, part of it is about the process of getting there. So enablers like a professional development plan, then to support staff to understand what that can do to support their career aspirations moving up. If we look at the 40 to 50 staff, the majority actually sit in frontline roles. And this is consistent across any organisation. We have a large number of Pacific people. We tend to be at the front line. The front line tends to be lower paid, but they also are at risk of challenges from the public. And what we want to do is, particularly for our younger Pacific population, we want to give them the opportunity to be considered for roles, higher roles, to think about whether they want to be a leader, because some don't want to be a leader, or do they want to become an expert in a particular field. So this is what our staff were telling us, is they just didn't want to stay in their role forever. They want to see themselves move. They want to see a career pathway as they move up to higher roles and be role models for future populations, future generations, to be able to achieve higher roles in council. Part of it too was actually working for the community they love. So a lot of, we have a high number of residents that work in town, but working in your community is always about dedication and commitment, loyalty, honour. And so a lot of our staff that work here for those reasons.
Yeah, beautiful. I would tautoko that as well, because I think that yeah, when you live here, you're from here, you're going to put in that much more effort into the mahi that you do. I just want to say I fully support the intention behind this for Pacifica to thrive in our city, and the different changes that will be implemented because of the strategy. Yeah.
Thank you.
Kia ora.
Thank you, Councillor.
All right, thank you. Yeah, absolutely, Mayor Baker.
I'm sorry, but just the one thing I did forget is I want to thank both you ladies, Vanessa and Tama, because this wouldn't have happened without you. You work your butts off, not just at council, but in volunteer organisations out there. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I guess just to wrap up our discussion, I think describing this as a milestone is very apt. A new way, a change in approach. Looking at the number of people that we have here today, I think this is a clear demonstration to us as a council of the importance of a by Pacifica for Pacifica approach. And when we do things the way that is appropriate, then we will hear from our community. And I really want us to do more of that moving forward. So thank you very much. I'm about to put the motion. Councillors, so you're aware, I understand, a waiata will be sung after the motion has, I personally hope, been passed, and I suspect it may be, based on what we've heard from around the table. Could I just ask, before we start, the gentleman at the front here, the microphone in front of you, do you mind just pushing the button there so the green light turns on? Thank you very much. Cool. And that one over there as well. Just so that way people who are listening online...
Testing, testing.
Thank you very much. All right, so with that, I will put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Have a good day, guys.
Or go to the community city hub for a cup of...
All right, before we proceed, I'll give our guests a moment to exit the room.
Have you had it? Yeah, I've had a look. I emailed Martin. Yeah. Which one? Yeah, yeah.
Wait, this is it.
All right. We will begin moving into our next agenda item, 7.3, Maungaroa 2050, Māori Strategy Plan for Porirua City Council. So again, I will begin by moving this to put it on the table. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hayward, thank you very much. So again, for this item, I will invite council officers to speak to the report to begin us off.
Tēnei te mihi nui a kia koutou i nā kaunihira o Porirua, e me mihi a kia koe i te tiamana i te rānei. Kei te mihi, everyone. That's the sound and the feel of our communities. Moving forward with the origin and the destination of the tūnau of the eo, Ola Kamatanga, and also the destination and the journey of the waka as well with the Maungaroa 2050. So I introduced to you the Māori strategy, which has been working alongside of our Pacific whānau and all of our hapori. We are really humbled by what we have felt and through that entire journey over the past year, and also grateful for the journey which Maungaroa 2050 has also had as well. And you've been part of the journey. We've come to you several times and presented to you for your input, and all of our staff to Taurahere, to Ngāti Tō, to everyone at every touch point, and we've been back to them to verify, is this what we heard? And we've put something together which we hope and we feel is right to take us until alongside of the LTP for 2050. Very aspirational, but we need to be aspirational because it affects all of our hapori and our changing population. And we mentioned that about all the places and where we were raised here and our changing communities. We need to be fit for the future. So I present for the last time Maungaroa 2050. Yeah, kia ora. I'll just hand it over.
All right, thank you very much. Open for questions and comments. Councillor Wehapi.
Kia ora, thank you. I think that Maungaroa captures the feedback really, really well, particularly for the engagement sessions, and thank you for coming in as well. It does capture the values of the community and those people who did engage with you. I am impressed with priority area number 5, Herea Te Waka, as it's my belief that we are implementing, and if we are implementing and talking about a strategy as important as this, as an organisation, we must understand what it is we are talking about, the who and the why. Regarding the 4th outcome, there are some pretty ambitious aspirations there, as you know, as regards to our social issues, and we know the stats are not always in our favour as Māori. And as a council, year in, year out, our goal is to work closely and develop good partnerships with relevant agencies and iwi for better social outcomes. I guess I would have liked to have maybe read how we might do that, or even front foot some of those things. As we know, working with central government agencies at the best of times is incredibly frustrating for us as a council. Last year I made reference to Taurahere of Porirua often sitting under the veil of not being seen or heard, so I thank you for this because I feel that the strategy presents some good opportunities for decision making in the future, you know, as we all have a right to be the architects of our own communities. The key thing going forward is that our Māori or Maungaroa strategy doesn't end up another booklet on the coffee table or a decoration in the lunchroom or even a dust collector. How many of those have we seen over the years? There's been some pretty big, gutsy, important discussions to get to where we are now, so going forward, it's got to mean something. Kia ora.
Thank you, Councillor Wehapi. Next I have Mayor Baker.
Thank you. Well said. Thank you, Kylie. This strategy, like the Pacific one, is awesome to be here. We've had Ngāti Taua sit at our table since 1990. This embraces everybody. I love the fact that we've got some ambitions and they're set, they're in concrete. We do have to follow through with our funding and everything else. I hope central government are listening to this. Māori are important in Porirua, as are Pacific. So I think we need to continue to lead, continue to push forward. I thank you for the work you guys have done. You've done an awesome job in the community with this. And so really happy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Baker. Councillor Filo.
Thank you for your mahi. I was really impressed with this report and what we've read so far, and can see that it's an organic, live document that is going to continue to have the different layers. And you made reference. There was reference in there to all the other strategies that feed into this and integrate. There was a whole list of them. The LTP. I won't go into that, but and also just want to say it was really cool to see the karakia at the start, and quite touching for me too, because that's a direct tupuna of ours through the Kātini line. So in terms of practical, what can we do as in our role as councillors? I looked at priority 2, which addresses developing and increasing community spaces across Porirua to foster whanaungatanga, play, learning, arts, culture, and celebration for whānau. So I wondered what kind of kōrero came out from your as you went out with the ideas from the community on that we could sort of look at in terms of our planning that we've got coming forward or coming up, and also the one under that are about supporting papakainga development in terms of what we can do within our policies here to tautoko that and help that be smoother. So those were my 2 questions for now.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Filo. Heria te Hapori, we had so much feedback from there that we couldn't fit everything in here. We were mindful that we kept it high level, and for the next 3-year period, we once this gets adopted, and then we can start working on our 3-year plan. And our 3-year plan will actually pull out all of the feedback, and there were lots and lots of it. And it goes on to our work plan for the next 3 years. But we couldn't put that together until this is adopted first. Once this is adopted, then we can work in our 3-year plan, because there were lots of things we are currently doing around supporting our hapori, around papakainga and things like that. So this will give us the opportunity to put them into our action plan for the next 3 years, and 3 years after that, 3 years after that, and that will be according to the funding that's available, the funding which we can secure in those 3 years. And that's the good thing around it being a journey until 2050, because we have different tides coming in, different governments coming in, different opportunities. And in that 3-year planning session is the time where we can work with all the different departments and the organisations within the council as to what they can do and what we can help them to do. We can guide them using these 5 principles and heria, because most of them are already doing touch points of it. It's just being able to tie everything together, which is the heria, which is the rope tying everything in together to bound it back to the anchor stone.
Great answer.
So we deliberately kept it high level for that reason, because there were hundreds and hundreds of different comments and things we can do and we should be doing.
So nothing immediate yet, because there's a big plan.
Everything is in draft, but you can't pull out the draft until till this comes.
So
first.
nothing for us to consider immediately is what I got from that.
And I think Ruben would like to add to that as well.
In regards to papakainga, there's been changes to the Ture Whenua Māori Land Act that council officers are looking at the moment, and there'll be impacts probably for the better for Māori in that space. We're just looking at the legislation at the moment, so I've tasked the team to look into the definitions of papakainga and what that will mean for papakainga in Porirua at the moment, but I can't give you any updates other than that at the moment, but we are working on it.
Next question was, I wondered whether, and you've probably thought about this, but the opportunity for like a secondment or trade between operations staff at council and the runanga to build, there was somewhere in the report that spoke about just building that communication and those deeper relationships. Had that come up at all within the strategy?
Yes, and that, those conversations have come up, and it's all around how we can be a lot more efficient in our partnership and our collaboration, and it makes a lot of sense. And so we are having those conversations, and that definitely has come up about shared roles, hot desking. Over at the runanga office, for example, in the same teams, so that we are across a lot of the projects that are happening that are appropriate. So this has given us the opportunity to be able to work out these initiatives and the way how we can do things better.
Cool. Okay, that's all my questions. Thank you.
All right. Next, I have Councillor Leggett.
Thanks for the strategy. I think it's fantastic that we've got this far, and as Mayor Baker has said, to enhance the partnership between council, particularly Ngāti Toa. I mean, I always think about money. I mean, it's can't help it. I'm a ratepayer too. However, I just wondered whether, from what you're saying and from what Councillor Thilo has said, intimated, quite a lot of what we're thinking about, or what you're thinking about going forward, could be integrated into council's business as usual.
Yep.
Is that and therefore use existing funding and cast a different light on how maybe some of that money is used. Would that be a fair statement?
Yes, definitely. It is about how we can do things better and more efficiently. We see the Māori strategic team and not being a team of its own, but integrated into all of the different departments within council. For us to be like a virtual, and even if it means hot desking, we would do all of those things and to move around so that we're a part of everybody's team, and that strategy has to be in there. So yeah, as part of BAU, I think that's how we can start to grow, add value, and also to show how we can not impact on our fiscal restrictions at the moment, and we can plan for the next 3 years around how we can do that.
All right, are there any further questions or comments from councillors? Councillor Hayward.
Kia ora, hia mana. He kai mahi mo tēnei take. He mihi anō. I have one pātai. It's in relation to the feedback. In the report, it talks about looking at building performance criteria and then hoping to come back when this review is set for discussion in a year's time. Councillor Fila's already kind of tried to tease out of you some of the things that could be in there, but perhaps could you give some commentary on what criteria of assessment you think would be suitable in that kind of space as a starting point for the kōrero that has to happen?
I think some of the things that we've already discussed in relation to the evaluation and the monitoring is to build it into the project plans and also into the action plan as well. In the last part of the strategy, and we spoke about the punga that is in the wharenui. It's an incomplete punga, and it's going to be our theme for the action plan. And so as we develop that, they are the things in which we would have to monitor and to evaluate and to work on as far as our. We have a bit of a backup singer at the back there.
Kia ora, Councillor Hayward. The team are working on the action plan at the moment. There are a range of different PO that we're calling them at the moment, ranging from te reo Māori signage, particularly around the city with all the new work we're doing. It's a Onipoto pathway, digital, online, making accessibility to our website, Ngāti Toa histories, Māori histories, working that into the heritage of the space. So the team are at the moment mapping out what the strategy means in terms of an action plan across council. We can bring that back at some point for councillors to look at.
Yeah. Kia ora. One comment. I kua whakanuia mō tēnei take he tēnei rā. I celebrate this because it is exactly what I had hoped would happen as we build the relationship between he tauiwi me, he Māori katoa, tauhere, Ngāti Toa. It is also, I want to again reference Councillor Fila's point about Atanatu and his karakia, or the karakia there, which talks about building a waka. I've said around this table in the past about the idea that our city has many rangatira, and that we will do better as a city when we look at our waka as two wholes, related together, charting a course. There will be lots of kōrero about the pūtea. Of course, you can't eat money. But that said, when we are united, we can chart a course better than being disunited. In that context, I want to thank our officers, all of those from our communities who spoke. I hope that you will see our efforts in the years to come as a vindication of the support that you gave us at that early stage. Kia ora koutou.
Are there any further questions or comments from councillors? No? All right, well, I'll probably just wrap up then just by saying, yeah, that to be honest, it's a real privilege to be here today and to be a part of this. I'm very excited about this, and my biggest takeaway, that in a lot of ways this is very inspiring and sets the benchmark for the rest of council in terms of the vision for our city as well. So thank you for your work on this. And with that, I will put the motion. So all those in favour, actually, sorry, before I do that, just a note, same as the last item, I believe there'll be a waiata sung after this. The councillors are aware, and councillor, we're happy if you could make sure that one of the microphones on there is on. So with that, I will put the motion. All those in favour? Opposed? That is carried.
We practice this as a duet, so thank you for joining us. We thought we would sing our Pūria Nei because it's all about that clearing, the first thing in the morning, when the sun comes up and it burns away all the dew and a new start. And this is what Mangaro 2015. We mihi to you all for your support all the way through, and it is a journey. Pūrea nei he te hau, oroia e te ua, whitia e te rā. Mai ake nā porararu, makere ana nā erere, wairua erere, ki ngā o te rangi, whitia e te rā. Mai ake nā porararu, makere ana Makere ana na
Nice tune.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. So just noting that we were going to move through to do some more submissions at this point. We're actually running a little bit ahead of time. Well done, us. So I'm going to move us right ahead for now through to item 7.4, the Significance and Engagement Policy Review. So I will move that to get it on the table.
Can you send me
I have
that?
a seconder? Councillor Duncan, thank you very much. And I will now open that for discussion. Do we have anyone speaking on this report?
Through you, Chair, can I just introduce our new officer, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you. So I'd just like to introduce you to Yasmin Fawcett, who is our new Senior Engagement Officer. She lives in Elsdon and grew up in Titahi Bay. So welcome, Yasmin.
Welcome, Yasmin. Thanks very much. Take it away.
Kia ora, through the chair. I'm here today to talk about and to seek approval to consult on the minor amendments on the Significance and Engagement Policy. Basically, the policy describes the criteria that we will use to determine the significance of a matter. And just to say, we will align any practices that come out of that with these awesome policy strategies that have just come up before you. So super excited about that. So basically, the proposal includes amendments to the list of strategic assets. We've also made some changes to the format and to just make it more readable and useful. We've also updated, there's a threshold to trigger more analysis, so we've updated some of those costs. The policy isn't a detailed way we will engage, it's just one piece of the puzzle. And it's basically a baseline that we will use to work collaboratively across the organisation, and it's in line with what other councils are doing.
All right, thank you. I'll open up for questions and comments. Councillor Hayward.
Kia ora, kia mana. Yasmin, kia ora. My partai is regards to 11G and around the additional flowchart. It may be useful at this stage to give a bit more commentary as it is going at the public consultation as to the rationale why that's important as part of this review. Could you do so, please?
Through the chair. So the flow chart is for our officers to decide when they're looking at an issue or problem, what process they should follow. Once again, it's not be all end all, but if a process doesn't invoke the legal consultative process, then there is a way to sort of, determine a more detailed engagement approach. So it's kind of leading our officers down that path. Even though it doesn't trigger that legal process, there is still a consideration to have a more detailed approach to engagement.
So just so I'm clear here, this is in addition to our legal responsibilities, but rather to give clarity to the public as to when officers, how officers would engage in terms of our engagement with the community at large.
Through the chair, yes. So it will be, it's a thought process. So it's showing the public also, that we're not just going to be not thinking about engagement properly, but we will be considering everything that's a matter of significance and following that process. So it is kind of giving that bigger thought and perhaps that.
No more questions, Kia ora.
All right, Councillor Leggett.
Look, I support the strategy. I've just got a couple of questions. Can you remind me the added new strategic assets? What criteria did we use to add those assets?
So the strategic assets, sorry, through the chair. the strategic assets that the definitions we've used as any asset that is critical to us delivering, the council delivering on our strategic priorities or outcomes. So essentially, it's the asset delivers a service, and yeah, anything that kind of alludes to delivering on that service as well. So the network is in there, as well as the wastewater network is in there, as well as the treatment plant as well.
On that, just a follow-up question. I would have thought, given that the Three Waters assets are already in there, that the wastewater treatment plant was a part of the Three Waters assets. Why do we carve it out as a separate asset?
So through the chair again, sorry. The wastewater treatment plant is an asset on its own that delivers a service. So it's where the wastewater is treated. The network is how it gets there. So again, it's quite, you can look at it separately or you can look at it together, but we've kind of deemed both those as separate assets.
Yeah, that's fine. And I had a question on page 638. So that's the last. We'll take a proportionary approach to determine the overall significance of a matter. If one criterion registers as significant and the others are marginal. So does that mean, I would have thought if you have criteria, why do we take a precautionary approach? So if criteria are not met, then they're not met. So are you saying in this that if they're not met, then we may engage?
So through the chair again, the criteria will be looked at as a set. So it's not going to be that if it doesn't meet one, we don't do it. So it will be looked at as a set. Again, this isn't this is how we're going to engage. It's one part of the puzzle. So we are going to be doing some more work to embed some good engagement practices across council and to standardise our approach to engagement. So it is a starting point, and we're hopefully asking our officers to think a little bit deeper when it comes to those matters of significance.
Yeah, look, that's fine. I mean, I guess this will be tested when we come to have a look at a particular thing. So I was just trying to think about, if we had one criterion registers as significant and the others are marginal, what would we do? I mean, to me, that says, well, we don't engage because most of the criteria are marginal.
Through the chair, I think at that point you would discuss further, and that is what it's asking. It's asked to think further. Yeah,
I understand that. Yeah. That's fine.
Yeah.
All right, Councillor, we're happy.
Thank you. Yeah, so just following on from that and Councillor Hayward. So I guess to be clear, the consultation is because we have to, the engagement is because we want to. Is that correct? Right. Thank you.
Through the chair, correct.
Yeah. Excellent. Any further questions or comments from councillors? No? All right. Thank you very much, Yasmin. In that case, I will put the motion. All those in favour? Oppose? That is carried. Thank you very much. All right. Sorry, 1 second, councillors. All right, we are now going to move back through to our submissions on the gambling policy. So Councillor Hayward, I'll note, is leaving the room due to his conflict. All right, I understand, is Gerhard Birking here? If you'd like to come forward to the table, Gerhard, I will refer councillors, this is submission number 64, if you wish to follow along.
Now we can move in second.
Oh, at this point? Okay, cool. Just as Gerhard's coming up, just to get this properly on the table, I will move it to get on the table. Do I have a seconder? Mayor Baker, thank you very much. Gerhard, you have 5 minutes to present. That includes time for questions. So you'll hear a bell at 4 minutes. So if you wish councillors to have time to ask questions when you hear that bell, it'll be good to wrap up about then. But otherwise, feel free to take it away.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry that Kia couldn't make it today, but my name is now Pepe, Anthony Del Pepe from Mapomaya, and we do not want to miss the opportunity to voice our submissions that you already have on the table. So that's why we're taking the opportunity to come down and voice the submission. So thank you very much for the opportunity. Talo Palawa, kia ora koutou katoa, whakalopalari atu, maro lelei, and warm Pacific greeting. Thank you to Chair and also to your worship, Anita Baker, and also the executive and member of the council for the wonderful opportunity for the Mapomaya to present our submission in terms of the harm of gambling. My name is Del Pepe, Anthony Del Pepe, and these are our colleagues in the line of work that we do in harm of gambling and advising the community as well. We have here Kōrero Sambu, she's a councillor, and also we have Kau Pao, she's a councillor as well. In our submissions, we work in a space of advising the community and health promotions and so on. Our organisations, we are a national service from Auckland all the way down to the South Island. And we do a lot of work here in Porirua from Escort Park all the way to Titai Bay. And we have witnessing in a line of work in the ground the effect of gambling in our community.
Sorry to interrupt, do you mind just moving the microphone a little bit further back?
Oh. So with the experience from our councillors, Koleti and also Kafaho, and also the health promotions from my side, we have experiencing in our community the effect of gambling, and also the same family will be affected by drug and alcohol and other addictions in this space. So we have urged the council in our submissions that we support what we have proposed through the council in terms of no relocate and also merge with pokie machines and also pubs. And we are supporting to every stuff that the council has put in place, especially not applying for funding from the pokie machines to fund our activities around the area. Because so far what we have seen in our community, the funding that we're getting from the pokie machine is not necessarily going back to support the family that are affected by it. So we are hoping the council and we as organisations supporting the community to take that stand in terms of no relocation, no merging, and make sure all the pokie machines in the sinking-led policy that you have proposed, so that we can work towards to reduce and minimise pokie machine completely, so to make the job easier for us in the grounds that we are doing the work. Is there any chance my colleagues want to add into the submissions to support what we're saying?
I think working on the ground with Porirua, we're working mainly for Pacific people, and I think the poverty is sky high. I think all the people that are involved in here needs to walk down to that bar down there and probably see the number of people and the kind of people. You know, we don't know. The poverty will be increasing in Porirua, homeless, violence. So I think I'm supporting whatever needs to be done and need to be done quickly. Otherwise, we'll all be sleeping on the road, including our grandparents and children and everybody. Thank you.
I think just adding from my experience as a counsellor, the ripple effect of gambling harm, it doesn't just affect obviously the individual, but it has a ripple effect on the immediate families, clubs that they might be a part of, community, church organisations. It just really does have a ripple effect that affects everyone, not just the gambler. It's probably something that you already know anyway.
Yeah, so those are the stuff that we want to allude to the council to just to shine the light in terms of what we are facing every day in the line of work that we do because we have church program in the area. And so far, the community has been sharing in terms of what they're going through and how much it really hurts the community. So far, we're trying our best with the education side of stuff and also the counselling side. But unfortunately, as you see, the team is a small team, so we need us to work together. And thank you to Jade from the council that was leading the process with the consultation, that we have worked partnership with the council to take the consultation to the community. So thank you for our time.
All right, thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions? We do have a little bit of time. No? Oh, all right, Councillor Felo.
Thank you for your submission. I'm just thinking about how can we get real effective change, because I agree with you there. You know, the problems that stem from the harms of gambling are real and in our city. So regardless of what, because, you know, council only has a few things at our fingertips, but there is when we think bigger, like central government, if from your opinion, and what would you want to see from government in terms of change to have some real impact on what's happening in our city with harmful in particular for the gaming machines? Is there anything you can kind of...
I think we are heading in the right directions in terms of the sinking-led policy and trying to avoid and make sure we get rid of it completely in the long term. And also the dependency in terms of our organisations to the funding that comes out of the pokie machine, because at the end of the day, what we are seeing in our community, the people that's been spending, as we had in our submission, Porirua's probably got the second highest or the highest in the whole country in terms of the money that's getting out of the pokie machine. And so far, the people that's affected by it and using these pokie machines, the money's not going back to them to support them and their family and the struggle that they go through. So for us, the sinking lid will be the process. At the same time, we need to work on our side. As you see, there's a small number that we cover, the lowest North Island, small numbers. We need to increase the numbers of people to educate and counsellors to provide the support while we're going through the get rid of it. We need to increase the education side, and that can go right across from the council to the health sectors and also to the education sector as well. So we can work together on that side.
All right, thank you very much. All right, that brings us to the end of your time. Thank you very much again for your submission.
Thank you.
Next up, and we noting again we are a little bit ahead of time, is Catherine Tran here? Or Christy Kang? Yes, Catherine? Perfect. No, perfect timing. Please feel free to come up to the front here. I don't have the submission number on this one. This is a page or submission? Submission number 58. Kia ora, Catherine. Oh, cool. It's up there. Perfect. All right. So, Catherine, from when you begin, you'll have 5 minutes to submit. You'll hear a bell at 4 minutes. That 5 minute period includes time for questions from councillors. So if you would like time for questions when you hear that bell, it's a good time to wrap up. Okay. All right, feel free to take it away. Thank you.
Yeah. Tēnā koutou katoa. My name is Catherine. I'm Public Health Lead of the Salvation Army Oasis. And this is my colleague Mel. She's the team leader of the Wellington Wairarapa region. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to present our submission today. And I would like to start with a message from Ministry of Health. So gambling harm is a significant public health issue because it's not limited to the gambler, but to their family, wider family, friends, workplace, and strongly linked to social issues such as domestic violence, child neglect and abuse, crime, substance addiction, and mental health. The harm can pass from one generation to the next generation, and prevent and minimize gambling harm is the core of the Gambling Act 2003. So with that in mind, please have a quick look at the Porirua start. So recently, the Porirua had a decrease in 2 venues and 10 machines in December 2022. However, from the DIA report, the gambling machine profit, which means the GMB over there. And in June 2023, it's rising and hit a record of 4,144,000 since March 2015. Moreover, spending machine in Kōrero is the highest across New Zealand, even higher than Auckland. And gambling spending per machine is over 26,000 in the June 2023. So it's the highest area in New Zealand as well. So, and gambling machine per capita is $90, which is huge and increasing 11%. Total gambling machine profit per year last year in 2022 is nearly 15 million. So whatever the reason why the number of venues and machine trending down, the gambling machine profit is trending up. These figures mean more loss on the bouquet from the community, particularly community in the high deprivation area, because 8 out of 10 venues in Porirua located in the region with design 9 to 10. And you can see on the grant, just a little bit amount of the money from the loss returned back to the community, roughly 28% in 2022. Next, please. Yeah, poker is still the most harmful form of the gambling due to the specific addictive design of the industry. And policy and law are still the most population approach to tackle this public health issue. And one of the best supported strategy to prevent and minimize gambling harm is to limit the availability and access to pokies. So research shows that the true sinking lid with the no relocations and no merging is still the most effective policy at the moment in long term. Besides, there are other short-term measures can help to reduce gambling harm in Aotearoa. For one example is the DIA new regulation on the host responsibility will be enforced in the December of 2023. Hopefully, it's a good action to minimize gambling harm in New Zealand. About the grant, Salvation Army Oasis would like to see an end of the community reliance on the gambling profit. And so we go, so next please. So we strongly support your proactive action for this year. So for the implementation of the comprehensive sinking lid and take on the ethical commitment to not apply for grant funding from gambling profit. Thank you.
Tēnā koutou e te iwi. Ko Pāmu Kahu tōku ingoa. I come here from a lived experience perspective. So, got 25 years of gambling harm, and predominantly with pokies. The impact that it had on my life. I lost my whānau, my partner, my son. I lost my job. Sentenced to 11 months home detention, 12 months intensive supervision. I was in debt for 80K and all my accounts were in the red. The emotional impact presented, daily challenges. He tino ua tēnei kaupapa. So very heavy kaupapa to talk about. However, it's something that we can probably do better to support our community, our whānau. Tēnā te mihi atu ki te mana whenua o te rohe nei, he mihi ana ki au koutou. Kia ora.
All right, thank you very much, Catherine, and thank you as well. Sorry I didn't catch your name, but for your story. We do really appreciate that. Does anyone have any questions they would like to ask? There do not appear to be any. Thank you very much again for your submission. All the best. And we'll move now to, I believe, our final submitter for the day. Thank you very much.
Kia ora.
Is Christy Kang here? If you'd like to come forward, Christy. Thank you. So again, you'll hear a bell at 4 minutes with 5 minutes total. Feel free to begin when you're ready.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today, and it's lovely to see you again. My name is Christy Kang, and I'm the Policy and Public Health Manager at PGF Group. PGF provides nationwide gambling harm minimisation services, and this includes both counselling and public health support here in Porirua, and also across different regions in New Zealand. Next slide, please. First and foremost, we'd just like to reiterate that Class 4 gambling is the most harmful form of gambling in New Zealand. So we really do commend Porirua City Council for proposing a comprehensive sinking lid. Over half of all councils in New Zealand have a sinking lid in place, and only 3 have a comprehensive sinking lid. So this is really a good step in the right direction. So a comprehensive sinking lid is one of the best policies available to minimise gambling harm in communities. And we know through evidence that a sinking lid can reduce problem gambling expenditure by 13%. It is a great public health approach, and it ensures the efficacy of a sinking lid approach. I'd also like to tautoko our submission from Te Whatu Ora. They would like to be here today, but they would just like me to echo their submission as well, that they support Porirua to take on a comprehensive sinking lid. Next slide, please. So we would also very much like to encourage Council to take on this ethical commitment to not apply for Class 4 grants and not accept Class 4 grants. We believe that this would reflect Council's commitment towards community wellbeing, and also it would better align Council with the Local Government Act's purpose around promoting the 4 wellbeings. I do appreciate that this is a difficult debate, but again, we'd like to remind Council around where this money is coming from, and rather than where it is going to. We know through repeated studies that this Class 4 gambling system transfers wealth from the most deprived communities to the less deprived communities. And I believe we're here today because Porirua City Council recognises that this system is inequitable, and it also disproportionately impacts our Māori, Pasifika, and our most deprived communities. So thank you for your time, and I will accept any questions if there's any.
Thank you very much. Councillor Leggett.
Thanks for your presentation. Can I just ask, in your first slide, you said that sinking lid policy reduces gambling by 13%, is that
Problem
correct?
gambling.
Problem gambling.
expenditure.
Where do you get that data from?
So that is from the Irwin study. It was commissioned by the Ministry of Health, and it was conducted by an AUT professor.
Okay, thanks.
Are there any further questions? Councillor Filo.
Oh, thank you for coming in. I note in the in the introduction part, you mentioned that your organisation is actually funded from the gambling levy.
Yes.
Would that also be from the gaming machines?
No, so the structure of the division of the proceeds is a little bit different. So the gambling levy goes into Vote Health, and that is distributed to Ministry of Health, and then they fund services accordingly.
Where does the funds from the gambling levy come from?
So the problem gambling levy is part of the GMP proceeds, yes, and the division is.
So that's the cut of the 10% of the. That's the. So the winnings go. There's like 90 cents. Sorry, it's probably not your particular presentation, but we saw one where the winnings were of $1, 90 cents went, and then the other part was for grants and.
So I think I understand which part you're referring to, but that is a little bit of a misconstrued truth in that it's a rate to player ratio. It's much more complex than that. But yes, in terms of the expenditure from the gambling proceeds, a part of the problem gambling levy is part of that.
Are you funded in any other way, or is it mainly through?
No, it's mainly just actually, and a few from our donators, but that's pretty much it.
Would you say that you taking the gambling levy to do what you're doing is in a way taking something kind of negative and turning it into something positive because of the work that you do?
Well, I guess in terms of the Gambling Act, it is recognised that gambling is harmful. So that is why the government has set up this procedure in place. I believe we're here as services because, the councillors and also local and central government recognise that gambling is harmful. Mm-hmm. So we're here to help support those families and whānau and gamblers.
Okay. Another one? Cool. Sorry, it's just gone out of my head. Actually, yes. So, I mean, obviously, we've heard so much about the harms of gambling, and we all know it is an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if we were to create meaningful change,
Mm-hmm.
not council and central government, because obviously that legislation for the Gambling Act is quite old. I know there was a slight amendment, but what would that look like to actually make a difference here in this space? In your opinion, I'd love to hear that.
In the local government space?
Local government and central government. If we were to lobby to central government and
Mm-hmm.
collectively try to make an impact
Mm-hmm.
to
Right.
address this,
Sure.
like how would that look?
I think, as you said, the Gambling Act is quite outdated. It's been over 20 years, so we do need a review of that act, and I believe that is possibly on the horizons with the new national government coming in. They have indicated as part of the tax plan, online gambling will become regulated. So there is a real opportunity here for council to advocate in that space. But I think for our position, if we can also uncouple this gambling proceeds funding communities, that would be a great way of protecting community wellbeing and not ensuring that reliance. In the local government space for Porirua City Council, unfortunately, the current options available are the best public health approach is to adopt a sinking lid. And if you are going to have a sinking lid, have a really, really strong one in place, which is currently being proposed.
All right, thank you very much. I believe that draws us to the end of questions. So thank you very much, Christy. That brings us to the end of our submissions for today. So we can wrap this paper up. So I'll remind councillors we are receiving the report and receiving the submissions today. We're not making any decisions at this point. So this is procedural. With that in mind, I will put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Oppose? That is carried. I believe the plan now, we've still got a couple more items on our agenda, is to break for morning tea for 15 minutes. So it's 10:13 now. So I'll say we'll come back at 10:30. So with that in mind, I will adjourn the meeting. So we are now moving through to item 7.5, the Revenue and Finance Policy Review. I'll move the report to open for discussion. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Duncan, thank you. Graham, would you like to speak to this report?
Sure. Chair, if you don't mind, I'll just introduce it then. Graham's going to answer all the technical questions that you have. I'll just sort of overview, if you don't mind. Look, this paper follows a number of workshops that you've had on the rating policy. Just want to correct a couple of points. It was spotted that within our documents, we've used mix between policy and policies. In describing the document, it's actually a rating policy, so we will make those adjustments as under section. If you adopt the proposed amendment, table section 5, where the chief executive will make some changes there. I understand there's also going to be some discussion around...
Sorry, Roy, just to clarify, this is the Revenue and Finance Policy review. We've got the rating policy review as the next item.
Apologies. I was getting too excited about that.
That's all good. I know how excited you get about this stuff.
I'll definitely pass it over to...
No worries. Thanks, Roy.
Thank you, Chair. Just before I go through the Revenue Finance Policy, and I will take it as been read, just regarding the submission around the discussion around the events within Pātika, that wording should have been changed, and because we've moved the activity out of the into the events area. So we moved that events funding area. So it comes now under the Te Papa Arena. So it doesn't change the numbers in terms of the revenue financing policy, but it changes the wording. So I hadn't picked that up, unfortunately. So we'll change the wording in terms of moving that activity, which is the events activity, to where it should be sitting. It doesn't affect the numbers, it's just the wording. I hadn't picked up that we'd moved it. And we'll also look at the wording regarding the in-kind as well as funding in terms of when we do support events. So we'll tidy up that wording as well. So hopefully that clarifies that point. As I said before, I'll take the paper as been read and just take any questions on it.
Cool, thank you. And I'll note those changes when we put the motion as well. Are there any questions or comments from councillors? Councillor Hayward.
Kia ora here, mana. Thank you for the preparation of the report. My question's actually related to point 17, that's around other changes to revenue and financing policy. Can officers, this might be a bit curly, can officers give any commentary about the possibility of any revelations from the work around affordable fees for recreation spaces? Work I understand that has been led through Wellington City and that we're working alongside with.
Ruben?
Yeah, we are working with Wellington City Council to look at a regional approach to affordable costings. We don't have an update on that for councillors yet, sorry, but we can bring that information back when that work is closer.
Would it be prudent of us as council to consider the possibility that we may need to look at an adjustment in the contribution of fees towards the cost of those spaces? And if the results of that work by Wellington City on affordable fares comes too late, then we are hog-tied in our ability to respond to that.
I don't know if anyone would like to respond to that. Roy?
Through you, Chair. I think if there is a change in terms of fees in that particular activity, and I'll get Graham just to confirm this, but that wouldn't necessarily mean that our percentages that we've described in our revenue finance policy would change. It would just be how we actually adopted an actual fee charge, and you would have the opportunity to do that between, worst case scenario, between the draft and the final, if you want to look at your fees. Does that address your concern, Councillor?
It does address my question, just in terms of the time frame, the role of the community in feeding back, and other things that may have a bearing on the decisions that we make around the table. Kia ora.
Cool. Next I have Councillor Philo. Oh, sorry, Andrew, did you want to add to that first?
Just to say through the chair, the point that Councillor Hayward has raised, we're well aware of it as officers. We discussed it earlier in the week wanting clarity from Glenn Quintel, who's our representative on that group, about when is that independent chair going to make a decision? How does it fit into fees and charges? But Mr. Baker and I discussed, our feeling and councillors will actually look reasonably good when the information comes out, the financial information about what we do in Porirua. And if it is, there's nothing we've seen to date that indicates that we're going to have a big problem when our information comes through, and our relationship with the sports groups is actually pretty good. So we're interested in coming out, and your point about when does it come in, we just want to narrow down on that and actually make sure we don't lose track of it getting in before you have to do your fees and charges.
Only to point that I've received that advice and hope that officers will continue to update us as appropriate.
All right, thank you. Councillor Filo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple of questions. The funding for the harbour on page 673, why is there no mention of the environment funding, Ministry of Environment funding that we get? Is that because... Oh, I'll just let you answer that, actually.
Sorry.
So we're talking about the Te Awarua, and at the benefit part where it talks about the fees, the charges, the proportion, and then there's nothing under subsidy or grant. But my understanding was there was some funding available for that, long-term funding.
I'll have to check that. Sorry.
Roy, did you want to speak to that?
Yeah. Perhaps if I could add through you, Chair, I suspect that, remember, this is a policy we're looking at for the next 30 years, albeit that will be reviewed every 3 years. So I think what we're trying to indicate here, there's no regular guaranteed sort of other funding. So if that funding came in, obviously that would make an adjustment. And we tend to use that funding in addition to what we provide through here. It becomes extra for us. So, for example, the planting was exactly what we use that funding for. I hope that it helps answer the question.
Yeah, thank you. And my other question is around the Waka Kotahi funding for our transport, and it's on page 678. Can you remind me why the proportion of general rate to the subsidy isn't the 53-47? Can you just remind me of that, please?
The funding from Wakakotaki is capped, and that's capped around the maintenance budget. The maintenance budget, which Wakakotaki currently fund, is 7.7 million. So on the 7.7 million, they provide 52% this year, and if it was the same amount, it would be 53% next year, because they said that the subsidy rate is going to increase to 53%. However, currently we spend about 16 to 17 million a year on the maintenance. So the effective subsidy rate from Wakakotaki is only 35%, because it's capped.
Right, thank you, Graham, for clarifying that. Another question on page 646, which was around the alcohol licensing. Now, what's my question? I wonder what the current situation is now. Does council bear the full cost if the licensing is opposed by the community? Is that the current situation?
Ruben?
At the moment, the cost of processing liquor licensing applications is quite expensive. One of our council officers has written a paper that went to ELT this week looking at options for how we can recoup some of those costs, it may have to get passed on to the applicant. So that paper will likely be coming up for consideration soon.
Okay. Well, that's good. We'll get more on that. I'm not sure. Where did I see that? Oh, and my other question was around what you mentioned regarding Creekfest. So you said that the wording is going to change. Can you just repeat what you said? How is the wording going to change?
Well, I need to look at the moment, it refers to that we support, and that could be both financial support or as in-kind support. So we probably just need to define that a bit better.
And so this paper is for current, or did you just say, Roy, that it's for, it's an ongoing document that doesn't, so it's not just for this year, right? This is continuous, yeah?
Correct, it's for the LTP, which is to cover the 30 years of the LTP.
Okay, so does that then imply that there'll be discussion around in-kind support for Creekfest for upcoming?
There is in-kind support to Creekfest. I've just checked that we did do traffic management this year. We paid for it, and we did do rubbish collection. So will it go on for 30 years? I don't think anyone can commit to that. We generally have a kind of 3-year funding round. But within the time of this, it may actually be easier to withdraw all reference to Creekfest because it's contentious. But I just want to clarify that, in fact, those in-kind supports did happen
I
this
think
year.
that's a good idea to take Creekfest out of that, because it did say funding for Creekfest, and that hasn't happened for the last 2 years. So
No, it has. It has. We have both funded it and done in kind. Yeah. I think Liz's point in public participation was that it wasn't at the level. Last year, as I understand it, they didn't apply, but this year they have applied and they've got it. So I will clarify with her what
you might need
our
to double
understanding.
check that. I think I don't think that the funding was applied for.
No, it wasn't applied for last year.
Or this
That's
year.
right. Yeah, no, it has. They've received it. We approved it around this table. Yeah.
But the application I don't think went through because it was a lot of work, was my understanding. 17-page document for
No,
a small amount of money.
we funded it to $10,000 is my recollection.
No, I
Yeah.
recall the meeting, but I don't
Yeah.
think that money's been
Yeah, I think
applied
this
for
is
or
probably getting
received.
into specifics that
Yeah.
aren't relevant to
It is.
this paper. So I think that's been noted. Thank you, Councillor Fellow. And I think the feedback here and the comments that Graham's made as well, just note that within the paper that we are moving, that we are delegating to the Chief Executive the ability to make minor editorial changes, so that those will be picked up in that process. Did you have any further questions, Councillor Fellow?
No, thank you.
Cool, thank you very much. Did anyone else have any? Councillor Duncan.
It's just a small one, but on 658, under core services, at the end of the first paragraph there's a footnote of 2, and I couldn't find any reference. It sort of intimated that it was going to expand on it, but it hasn't.
Through the chair, we'll have to pick that up as an editorial. It might have been I missed something when I was going through doing the editing.
All right, are there any further questions or comments? Councillor Wehapi. Sorry, it says you're Councillor Nalo at the moment.
That's okay. I've been called worse. In regards... No. In regards to the alcohol licensing fees being reviewed, I just note obviously there's no change in that graph that from the option 1 there at the stage. That's obviously subject to change after that review, because it says the proposed funding allocations is exactly the same as it was. Sorry, it's for clarification purposes.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay. So it's subject to change. Cool.
Yes.
All right, I think that covers off everything. And sorry, I'm just noting I'd actually mixed my papers up. So currently under the recommendations, I don't believe it does include that recommendation around the minor editorial changes. So I'll just note that as I'm moving this. Do I need to include a... Yeah, yeah. So I'll probably re-put that with the leave of the meeting to delegate to the Chief Executive the ability to make those minor editorial changes before this goes out to consultation. So with that, I will put the motion. All those in favour? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much. We will move now to item 7.6, the rating policy review. Now, on this one, I'm about to move this. I'll ask you all to bear with me. You've received a document with some quite significant changes as a chair's recommendation. I also note that it's been foreshadowed that there may be an amendment brought on this, which will be done separately to the chair's recommendation. So I'm, first of all, if you'll bear with me, we'll work through this just so we all know exactly what it is that we are moving. So on the rating policy review, I am moving that we receive the report, noting that the council is required to undertake a review of the rating policy as part of the long-term plan, agreeing the principles of the review are fairness and equity to all ratepayers, transparency, sustainability, strategic priorities, and administrative simplicity, with the further information there. Agreeing to consult on a rating policy with the following key features: no change to rating differentials, with each of them listed, a uniform annual general charge at $425, city development rate at 80% of the economic development budget for staff and suppliers, and extending the eligibility for remission of rates on Māori land, to delegate to the Chief Executive the authority to make changes to the consultation document to reflect decisions made at the meeting or requirements that might arise prior to formal consultation as part of the legal review, noting that future work streams include the use of general rates versus targeted rates, consideration of the current differential system, in particular whether the rural differential for lifestyle properties should remain, consideration of the impacts of Three Waters reform, whatever form it will take, and agree the other options to be consulted upon for the uniform annual general charge with a city development rate at 80% or 90% of the economic development budget for staff and suppliers as A, status quo, B, 385, C, 325, and D, nil. Thank you for bearing with me on that. So I will move that to put it on the table. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hayward, thank you very much. I will now ask Roy to introduce this paper.
Thank you, Chair. I've put on my glasses so I can at least see the indication of age, I'm afraid, Mr. Chair. So this policy review has been through a number of workshops. As you can tell from even reading the recommendation, anything with regards with the rating policy is very complex and there's many intertwined parts. So I'm going, if any questions, Graham will take you through those, but we did pick up and had been advised that our language hasn't been consistent through both the report and the consultation document, where we've mixed up the word policy or policies. We will adjust that through that recommendation that you read 5 about the delegation of the Chief Executive to make some changes. The correct wording is actually policy, not policies. So we'll correct that. The discussion, I understand, around nil for a annual general charge. When I revisit the document itself, the consultation document, if that option is consulted on, I think we might want to add a little bit of clarity to emphasise a couple of things. One is that the move would be from actually an annual general charge to the general rate, so in fact ratepayers will still pay it, not a freebie, just to make that clear. And also, I guess, to try and just emphasise that under a nil annual general charge, then actually it is a move away from the residential gets the advantage, but it certainly impacts both the rural and the commercial sectors. Those are the big moves, which perhaps gets a little lost in some of the papers. So with your permission, we'd look to try and just strengthen that in the consultation document, if you fully go with the nil.
All right, thank you very much. Graham, did you want to add anything to that before we get into discussion?
No.
Okay, cool. All right. In that case, I will open this for discussion and comments. Mayor Baker.
I'd like to move an amendment, as you're all aware. I would like to seek to remove 7.d, the nil option. I think people see nil, they will want to do nil, obviously, it just seems silly having it there, and we all realise that if people select it, then it goes on our rural ratepayers and our commercial, which from my point of view is not acceptable. So I'm moving that. Do I have a seconder?
Cool. Councillor Leggett, thank you very much. So that's been moved and seconded. So we'll now move into discussion on the amendment. So I'll open that for discussion. Would anybody like to speak to the proposed amendment? Councillor Hayward.
Thank you, Hia mana. I understand the rationale of the proposed amendment and the Mayor's advocacy in terms of equity with regards to rural and commercial sector. Councillors will be aware of my concern about the very methodology of how the UAGC is developed, but there is at least some coverage in here about what areas of essential funding that, no matter where you live, needs to be covered. That would indicate my preference to have at least some level of charging for the UAGC. I would suggest that that is not the case. I think that it is, however, important for the public to have a conversation about the very nature of the UAGC, because at the moment, because of my concerns of the methodology used, I'm not comfortable with the proposal to maintain it at the status quo. There has to be, for me, some rigorousness, some stringency around the process of assessing that. So I would prefer to keep that option in the interests of us as a council making prudent decision making. Kia ora.
Thank you, Councillor Hayward. Would anybody else like to? I think you can speak again at the end, Mayor Baker. Yeah. Does anyone else want to speak first? Councillor Leggett.
Yes, I support the change because what we have here is already complicated enough in terms of the number of charts and figures and all the rest of it. And I suspect even if we put information in there about what nil means and implications, it's not going to be understood by people. So, and given that Councillor Hayward is in support of some UAG charge, I would suggest that now is not the time to start debating about that and making it even more complicated. So that's why I support removing D.
Thank you, Councillor Leggett. Are there any other comments on this from councillors? Councillor Duncan.
Yeah, I support the motion to remove it as well. As the Mayor said, as soon as people see nil, they'll see that is the option they want, and they won't dig any deeper into it. The complexity is there now. We need to get rid of that nil aspect there.
Thank you, Councillor Duncan. Anyone else? No, I guess the comment that I would make on this, and you're all aware of my view on this, I personally am in favour of keeping nil in there. I think there are some very good arguments both ways on this for bringing it down to nil or to having some sort of value there. And because there are very good arguments both ways, I think it's a discussion that's worth having as a community. I'm comforted by the proposal that Roy had on putting a little bit more explanation around what exactly that would look like, so people understand that it's not actually an overall rates reduction, it's shifting things around a little bit, and bearing in mind the impact it would have in particular for our residential ratepayers, potentially benefiting or reducing the overall amount going into residential rates. I think it's worth having that discussion, particularly in the context of we know that not all councils have a UAGC. So I think it's an important discussion to have, but obviously we'll see the way that things go. So that would be my contribution. If no one else wishes to speak, Mayor Baker does have a right of reply, so I'll just give last chance.
Thank you.
No? All right, Mayor Baker.
Yep. No, the reason, if we leave nil there, you're going to have to change 4A because it says no change to rating differentials. So that's not correct, because if that gets ticked by everybody, those contradict themselves. So how does that work?
I think what my understanding is that that wouldn't impact the actual percentages of the rating differentials. So,
But it would. We would be asking more from rural and commercial.
No, the burden, sorry. Actually,
That's
I'll
okay.
leave Roy to,
No,
something more of a
it does move to those other groups, but the differential won't change because it's done on the capital value. So it'll just rework the amount. The amount will move from within the general rate from the UAGC to the general rate, which is calculated on the capital value.
right.
Thank you.
Okay, cool. So that brings us into discussion on that. So I'm now going to put the amendment. I'm going to ask for this by show of hands. So that the amendment, again, clarifying, is to remove the nil option as proposed by Mayor Baker. So all in favour, please raise your hand. So that's Mayor Baker, Councillor Waddle, Councillor Duncan, Councillor Leggett, and Councillor Weehape. That's 5. Is that right? Yep. Okay, cool. All opposed? So that's myself, Councillor Hayward, Councillor Nalo, and Councillor Filo. So the amendment is successful. So we will now move back to the substantive discussion, noting that the substantive now does not include 7D, the nil option. Do I have any other speakers? Councillor Hayward.
Kia ora, kia mana. I again going to just raise my concern with councillors regarding home equity remission and a policy around supporting rates repayments using that as a mechanism. My viewpoint on this is that council can choose to introduce a policy. The devil will be in the details, obviously. We may very well wait and see what LGNZ wants to do on the subject, but I am increasingly of the view that it is uncomfortable for us as councillors to continually say when we go to long-term plan, especially for those on fixed incomes and our older senior members of the city, that you can apply for the rates rebate and then leave that conversation there. I'd like us to investigate other options to give support. It doesn't cover everybody, but at least it's us trying to do something more than what we are doing now. Kia ora.
All right. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Leggett.
So can I just note two things? One is following on, we've removed the nil option, which simplifies things a bit, but I just want to when I was reading through this, I just wanted to make sure that we were not giving the impression when we were going out here that, and you could read that into it, that this would be the only rate change that was going to happen as a result of this. Remember, we are considering what rates will be set at for next year shortly, and I just wonder whether there is some nuance in there in terms of just reinforcing that this is a separate decision to what our rates increase will be. If there is a subtle way of doing that, that would be good. So I just make that point. If anyone
we could amend the document to ensure, so this is the rules around our rating policy. This is not the quantum that and we can clarify that if I think there are some words in there already, but we can certainly make it more
wasn't clear
obvious.
to me, but
Okay, it's on page 3, Councillor, where I talk about the review is not about the size of the rates pie, but how the pie will be divided up. The amount of rates to be collected will be considered as part of future budgets.
I'm not
we
sure
can bring
whether
that more
people
out.
understand that
Okay.
clear enough. That's all. I just make the point. All right. My second point is, and I don't, when and it's in our recommendations, when under where is it? Talking about rural rates anyway. 6B, consideration of the current differential system. this is for future work stream, in particular whether the rural, differential or lifestyle property should remain. Red rag to a bull, that's all I'm saying. What does that imply? We're going to remove it and your rates will go up. That's what it implies. I'm not saying that we're actually going to do that, or that there not some other subtleties around how you do that would even things out. But if I was sitting there reading that, that's what I would think.
No, I think that's a fair point. It's probably a discussion we need to begin having, noting the direction that other councillors regionally have been going on this as well. So, but very fair point.
But it is in the recommendation, that's all I'm saying.
Yes. Any further questions or comments, Councillor Filo?
Minor questions. On page 716, with regards to the separately inhabited properties, can you just remind me, currently, do granny flats get charged the uniform rate at the moment separately to the house that they're...
They would if they've got an oven in them.
Sorry?
They would if they've got an oven in them.
Okay, that's...
We sort of, as I mentioned in the workshops, we have an oven test.
Yes, that's right, thank you. And...
Plumbed oven.
A proper wired.
Could be dangerous.
A properly wired oven.
Councillor Filo, you had another question.
Yeah, I've got two more actually. Page 717, can you remind me what, this is regards to the business economic budget and us putting the percentage up. Can you just remind me what the businesses, what do they receive in return for this target rate?
This is the events which the city development team run for and promotion of the city. So there's that and the staff. I think there's 5 staff members, and then there's the budgets in terms of what they spend through the year on events promoting the city and business events.
So they pay this extra targeted rate so that there's more business events. And
it's supporting the economic development of the city, so attracting businesses.
Attracting businesses.
And people to events, so things like that. So it's customers and that coming to the city. So they get the outcome of that in terms of the sales and things like that.
So things like Shocktober, as promotions.
Ruben, did you want to speak to that?
Yeah, so there is the targeted rate for economic development, and then we have the city events budget. City events budget also includes 9 major events throughout the city, so things like Waitangi Day, Anzac Day, now Matariki. There's consideration for whether we can squeeze in other things into that, Creek Fest and things like that as well.
So is the events budget separate to the economic one?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay. Oh, so those are community events, though. Is that right? The events budget.
Yeah, a lot of the economic development events are also community events as well, but the idea is that we're generating or we're stimulating the economy by getting people out shopping, getting them into the town centre. So they are supporting businesses, but they are largely community focused as well.
Thank you. And last question, can you remind me again, with regards to that discussion around splitting the commercial rate between industrial industry and the commercial industry, can you remind me the thinking behind that again, please?
That was where, if we were looking at changing the differentials, whether we would have to split those two groups because they underlying economics for those two groups are different. So it's future work which we've just sort of signalled we may have to do in terms of if we were wanting to change the differentials, is because at the moment those two are within the same rating group.
Oh, okay. So that would be looking at that and not in the near future. Is that sort of not before this long-term plan?
No,
or
we
after
would
it?
to do that within the next 3 years, but before the next revaluation, because if we were looking at changing the differentials when the revaluations happen, we would have to investigate whether we would have to break those two into separate groups.
That's right. And so is it looking at, when you say the differences, is that in terms of, like, what is that, like how much money they're making, or what do you define that as?
It's what QV advises in terms of the land use differences. And with commercial, that has lately it's been increasing at a lower rate than what the industrial has in the industrial land, in terms of the drivers for that.
Good, okay, so it's to address a bit of equity within those areas.
The issue is that if we do reset the differentials based on revaluations, because those two groups drive differently in terms of their underlying, but if you applied them in the same group to the same outcome, then you'd penalise the industrial and you'd give the benefit of that to the commercial. So it's about fairness between those two sectors when they're fundamental, the way which their land use is different.
Oh, okay.
And so at the moment for rating, it's okay, but if we're then doing other things about trying to change the differentials based on a revaluation, when you're saying that they're both are the same, when the underlying drivers are different, you're going to advantage one group and disadvantage another group. So that's where we need to do some further work.
Oh, good. Okay, so lots of investigation into this.
Yep.
I would also like to sort of add to consider, I'm not sure if we have a policy on this at the moment in terms of the ratings, but charitable organisations as well that pay commercial rates? Or do they have a specific one for their own sector?
It's about the building use. So if it's a commercial building, it'll be paying commercial rates. The only exception is like churches and things like that, but not for charities.
So that might be something to consider in terms of how they use their land, which would be obviously different to how industrial industries use theirs and also how businesses use theirs.
Roy?
Through you, Chair, I think it's actually, as Graham indicated, it's actually about the building use and the land. So a number of charities, if they own their own properties, that's somewhat different if they were leasing it from someone. So if they are occupied an area that is deemed commercial, then the land and buildings associated with that would be charged a commercial rate. There are exceptions, like I said, for example, if a church by any chance was in that area, there's a difference for that. But it's all driven off the where they are located in terms of residential, private, and commercial, and whether they own or not lease. It's a bit complicated, but it's a small slither.
That's the current.
What we're looking at.
That's what you're saying? That's the current situation now.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Next, I have Councillor We Happy.
Thank you. Fairness and equity. I'm not sure property revaluations kind of marry up to that. I'm not a huge fan actually of the process that QV uses to get to their dollar amounts. So I think in future, because the revaluations absolutely kill our residential, our properties and things like that, and people think CVs, RVs, oh, that's what my property's worth, when in fact it's not. So actually it's an educational thing. So when these revaluations come along, we need to be a little bit more forward with our messages to community if they do have any issues, and they really need to be challenging these revaluations. I remember when we had the submitters come in and we asked the rural community if they had actually gone through and challenged those decisions, and a lot of them did. So I think going forward, I think the message should be to our residential people that that actually is a tool for them. And I'm not saying just to take the mickey. There are, because people at QV don't drive around every single house that they revaluate. So there's a lot of things they don't know about use of land and or particular houses that are there. So I think going forward, I think that would be something that we need to put out to our community, the options that they have as well, and the reasons why we come up with these policies. Thank you.
Councillor Leggett.
Just following on from what I said about item 6B, rural, I'd like to move another amendment that to 6B, that the sentence there finish after the word system. Consider the current differential system, and remove in particular whether rural, because I think that is superfluous. We would do that anyway, and we would also, because it's just a little bit misleading, we will also be looking at all the differentials going forward. So I would like to move that we remove all the words after system in item 6B.
All right, is there a seconder for that? I've got Councillor Duncan seconding that. All right, we will move into a discussion around that amendment. Would any...
On here. It's just removing words to remove...
So just to make sure that I've got this correct, that means that 6B would now read consideration of the current differential system.
Yes, correct.
So that's the proposed amendment.
And, sorry, you may have to reflect that in some of the other words in the document as well.
All right, and related editorial changes. Sorry, 1 second.
Well, we haven't, not without this.
We're just clarifying some process-related considerations.
What?
Yep, okay, we're able to proceed. So would anyone like to speak to this amendment? I guess I'd begin conversation on this just by saying that personally, I think it's important that we leave it in there as is. I realise it might set off some alarm bells, but this is a discussion that I know we've had informally and we know is coming, and I think it's important that we signal that to our rural community that this is a discussion that is coming. So that's not me necessarily endorsing it as a direction of travel, as much as it's me saying I believe we need to be upfront and honest about this discussion that is coming, and be proactive on that. So that's my view. Mayor Baker.
I'm agreeing with what Councillor Leggett said, because we are saying, it makes it sound like we're out for now. That's what we're about to do and change it. We may be thinking later on, but we may be thinking about all of those groups. And here we're just signalling one, and I don't think it sends a good signal personally. I think we need to have consultation openly with all groups.
Would anybody else like to speak on this? Councillor Hayward.
To be sure, I'm actually quite ambivalent about whether this wording is added in or not, because I would think that 6C would actually supersede my concerns with regards to the addition of that portion of the wording in 6B. Inevitably, these things are interconnected. And so whether or not there is equity in terms of the services that are being provided, and whether you are in a rural or a residential or a commercial space, the Three Waters impact does have in my view, a very big bearing on what council is providing to those communities in particular, and whether or not those households are getting a fair shake with regards to how that is being apportioned. So again, I'm ambivalent about this. I honestly could not care one jot in terms of whatever possible reading you could have into this, but rather that the bigger concern for me is 6C. Kia ora.
All right, are there any further speakers? There do not appear to be. Councillor Leggett, would you like to say any final comments on this before we vote?
I think it's all been said, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, cool. I'm just going to put this amendment initially to see whether or not we need to do a show of hands. So we are voting on whether this amendment is included. That is that 6B be changed to consideration of the current differential system. All those in favour, please say aye. Opposed? That is carried. Okay, we will now move back through to our substantive discussion. That's okay. I haven't noted specific votes from that one, just that it's been carried. So, does anyone have any final comments or questions on the substantive motion before we vote? There do not appear to be any. Okay, so just to clarify again, what we are about to vote on is the chair's recommendation that I read out at the start without 7D that has been removed, and with the change to 6B that we have just voted on. So that's what we are voting on. All those in favour? Opposed? That is carried. All right. That brings us to the end of our business today. I will note that as we are about to move into workshop, that we will close the karakia after the workshop. So I will close our TPK meeting at 11:17. Thank you.